All right, let's talk about the orgy. Madison Cawthorn is a congressman, and he said,
and everything else is good.
Aside from that, I mean, the sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington, with the average age is probably 60 or 70, and I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get-together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove, addiction in our country. And then you watch them do, a key bump of cocaine right in front of you.
Weekend, he was talking to a right-wing podcast host.
Well, I don't know who the podcast host is. I watched the clip, and I'd never heard of that person. But sure, he could be a right-winger. He could be anything. But yes, but it didn't seem to me that Cawthorn realized that what he was saying was going to be going out to lots and lots of people. But he said that two things that were of interest there. One was that he's watched old Republicans snorting coke, meaning when I say old Republicans, I mean old Republican members of Congress snorting coke. And the other was that some old Republicans, members of Congress, invited him to an orgy.
Right.
So, of course, there's been and he's a very good-looking young guy. He's 25, I believe, or 26 now. And he's very, very handsome in a kind of a traditional Nazi way. Right. In fact, another member of Congress said to me, about him, said, the Nazis always look hot or something like that. But that guy isn't the one who invited him to the orgy. He said like some 70-year-old or a 60 or 70-year-old invited him to an orgy. Or he said people like that. He didn't say the age of the person. But anyway, all day today, everyone on Capitol Hill is trying to guess who invited the young Nazi to an orgy. And especially because his wife divorced him because he had been in a serious accident. His penis doesn't work. And so what's his role at the orgy? Anyway, is it his mouth or something else? But in any case, everyone is trying to guess who. So it seems that from what I'm hearing, the two main suspects who invited Madison Cawthorn to the orgy are one or the other. So one, of course, everybody guesses Lindsey Graham. My theory about that is that, everybody guesses Lindsey Graham because that's the obvious person, and it doesn't have anything to do with reality. The thing that people in the know guess, and this is the one I think who is the person, is a fellow North Carolinian and a neighbor of his named Patrick McHenry, who happens to be a closet case and a very, very extreme right, and definitely is friendly with Cawthorn. So he was probably the one that invited Cawthorn to the orgy.
This is just U.S. Representative Congressman.
This is great.
Yes.
I guarantee you no other radio shows has had this news on today.
This is exciting stuff. And you were right about Lindsey Graham. You told us about Marco Rubio's white teeth. You told us about Mitch McConnell. And people say, well, why is this important? And the rule is, if you're a Republican, you're not allowed to have any type of sex that is not with a woman in the missionary position.
Only in the missionary position, exactly right.
Otherwise, you're a hypocrite, and you're dangerous, and you're self-loathing, and the gloves are off. If the gloves are off sexually in the Republican Party when it comes to persecuting the LGBT community, then the gloves are off exposing any Republicans who are closet cases.
All of them.
All of them. Well, all of them are closet cases.
So I wrote about this. I think I just tweeted about it. Yes. So anyone who wants to go to my Twitter will find a link to a long story about when Patrick McHenry was first elected to Congress and how he was in trouble. Not just for being a closet case. That was the least of it. He had his former lover murdered. So it's a very interesting story, and I recommend that anybody who likes this kind of thing Go and read it.
I'm putting a picture of Patrick McHenry up on the screen right now. He's a regular John Wayne.
Yeah.
John Wayne
Thing
wore
about
assless chaps.
The thing about Patrick McHenry is that he is the epitome of the Republican establishment. When he was first elected, he vowed over and over again that no one would ever get to the right of him. That he would be, without a doubt, he would be the role model for the most extreme right person in Congress, and he would say that openly. I mean, he wasn't fooling around. That was his role for the first couple of years, and now he's not even close. He's not even close to that. The Republican, he hasn't changed, but the Republican Party has moved so far to the right that now he's sort of in the middle of it. I think he's even like he's going to be a committee chair of the. He's the ranking member on the House Financial Services Committee. They always try to find the most corrupt person they could find, who's in bed with the big banks and everything. That would be him. So they made him the ranking member. So when they win Congress, which is likely, he will become the chairman of that committee. And that committee, in any case, there are 3 or 4 committees in Congress that are like beyond belief in their corruption. That's the biggest of them all.
Well, I did some while you were talking because I had not heard about Patrick McHenry being gay, but according to Tal Road in 2010, they asked Congressman Patrick McHenry over the Crooked Dope asked Patrick McHenry, "Are you gay?" And he said, "I am not." So he denies being gay.
And he left that interview and married his secretary that day.
Okay. And he's anti-gay. He's
very anti-gay.
Gay, but anti-gay. He's your typical.
I at the time when he was first exposed to being gay, I wrote half a dozen stories about it. So if you want to go back to my original, you could go to that tweet today, and you'll get to the main story about him. The part that I really relished was more than just being gay, but the murder. That was the main thing.
What was the murder?
He murdered his lover.
Okay. And who was the lover?
Some galoot.
I'm Googling it right now, and there's a lot. I mean, if you just, Pat
Google,
McHenry.
McHenry down with tyranny.
Okay, there's Patrick McHenry's creepy closet in Blue NC. Anti-gay activists tell Patrick McHenry to come out wherever you are. This goes back to 2010. North Carolina conservative is not happy with people outing him as gay. Well, then he should join the Democrats, right? Let me look up.
The Democrats don't want or need him. Please, we have enough of our own problems.
We've got Charlie Crist.
I mean, the point is not to out Patrick McHenry. It doesn't matter anymore. He's a happily married Republican. The point is to say that he got a little itch in his crotch for Cawthorn, whatever his name is. Madison Cawthorn, that's right.
Well, this is from Down with Tyranny, March 9th, 2012. Speaking of Mark Foley and Larry Craig, for those of you, if you don't remember who they are, we'll tell you. A robocall went out to Republicans and some independents, tying McHenry to both of them, or at least to their hypocrisy and promiscuous gay activities. So, okay. The murder story is the interesting one. That was the one that was really the fascinating one in my series about Patrick McHenry's gay hypocrisy. Is this as
bad he murdered
as
someone? Big deal.
Is this as bad as Matt Gates's murder story? Wasn't there a murder?
Yes, there was a murder there too. That's right.
In his dorm room, right? They had to move the body,
yes.
allegedly.
Him and his father. By the way, which reminds me, the other person who a lot of people were talking about as a possibility for having invited Cawthorn to the sex orgy. I mean, that's what Cawthorn said. I mean, you listen and say, oh, that's how he's claiming that there was a sex orgy. No, Cawthorn said this. It's on tape. I mean, everyone was talking about it today.
Yeah.
But in any case, the other person who a lot of people guessed was Gates. That Gates invited him, because Gates is known for being a major participant in orgies.
Right. I didn't know that he was doing it with men, though. I thought he was just doing it with.
Well, he's a polymorphous pervert. If it moves, well, we don't know if he also likes bodies, but if it moves, he'll go for it.
Well, let's. This is always fun. The news has been so depressing.
Question again?
Huh?
What was the question?
This is much more interesting, going after hypocrisy in the Republican Party, which eventually is going to destroy them, I think, by the midterms. I think Putin has all the compromat on them. And because they're now supporting Zelensky and not Putin, we're going to get more and more information.
And there's also kind of the whole espionage aspect to what goes on in Washington of, so many people trade in secrets, and there's a currency to secrets. And so it's wild. And then, there's members of the media, the journalists, who kind of will keep nasty stories about you or about other people on a shelf. And then if you're about to kind of speak out against something they don't want you to, they'll come out and say, well, we're about to drop the story of when, 17 years ago you did X, Y, and Z, and you don't want us to drop that story, do you? So we're going to bully you back into this position.
And because they're now supporting Zelensky and not Putin, we're going to get more and more information.
But not Cawthorn.
Not Cawthorn.
You know what Cawthorn said, right? People will remember that Cawthorn claims that Zelensky is a thug.
Right.